Dreams have always fascinated and unnerved us, a mysterious blend of memory, desert, and imagination. Yet sometimes, dreams cross a line, weaving themselves into the waking world in harrowing ways. These are not stories of harmless night visions or fleeting daydreams, but true tales where dreams foreshadowed terrors, blurred reality, or offered warnings too chilling to ignore. Here are 3 true, scary stories where dreams bled into reality and left those involved forever changed. In a quiet, rural town, nestled deep in the heartland, a young woman named Laura began having a recurring nightmare. It was always the same. She found herself wandering through her parents' old farmhouse at night. The rooms were cast in pale blue moonlight, the silence suffocating. As she moved through the winding hallways, she would always stop at the same door, her childhood bedroom. On the other side, she sensed a terrible presence, something shuffling, clawing at the door, trying to get out, or perhaps trying to get in. Paralyzed with fear, Laura could only listen as fingernails scraped the wood and a low, pained moan echoed from within. Each morning, Laura's heart would pound as she woke, drenched in cold sweat, relief flooding her as she realized it was only a dream. But the sense of dread never truly left her. She hadn't lived at her childhood home in over 10 years, her parents having moved out and the building sitting abandoned. Yet, night after night, the nightmare returned. After weeks, Laura decided to call her parents. They admitted they had been getting strange phone calls, no voices, just static and soft scratching sounds. The 3 agreed to visit the farmhouse together, if just to put Laura's mind at ease. It was late afternoon when they arrived. The house had not aged well, its windows caked with grime, the yard overgrown. Inside, the air was heavy and stale. Laura's father tried to make light of the situation as they swept through the empty rooms, but Laura's eyes always lingered on her old bedroom door. When she reached for the knob, a shiver ran down her spine. The hinges groaned as she slowly opened it. There, filing through the dust, they spotted deep, erratic scratch marks on the inside of the door. Suddenly, a low rustle caused everyone to freeze. Out from beneath the old bed, a battered raccoon staggered, sick and stumbling. It looked as though it had been trapped there for days, frantically clawing at the door, desperately trying to escape. Laura's breath caught in her throat. The sound, the scratches, the overwhelming sense of panic, exactly as her dream had played out. The family quickly freed the animal, but Laura never shook the feeling that her dreams had been more than mere nightmares. Perhaps the house, or something within it, had called out to her as it lingered in that liminal state between dream and waking. She wondered if she would have felt that same sense of terror if she'd never returned, or if the scratching would still visit her night after night. The second story takes us far from old farmhouses to the busy pulse of a bustling city. Mark, a graphic designer, prided himself on his skepticism. He didn't believe in premonitions or ghost stories, but one dream began to gnaw at his carefully constructed worldview. It wasn't dramatic, but eerily specific. He dreamt of driving through the city at night, the rain streaking down his windshield, the rhythmic hum of the tires almost hypnotic. As he crossed a certain intersection, a shadow darted out in front of his car. A woman, soaked, her eyes wide and frightened. He slammed the brakes, His heart pounded, and he felt a jolt of terror so real it almost woke him up. Dismissive as always, Mark didn't give it much thought at first. But 2 days later, on a late shift, he found himself driving home as rain began to fall, just as in his dream. He subconsciously gripped the wheel tighter as he approached the intersection from his vision. The radio murmured low in the background. Suddenly, a woman burst from the shadows, sprinting across the street, her clothes soaked, her face contorted in fear. Mark slammed on his brakes with barely an instant to spare, the car screeching to a halt only inches away. His heart thumped wildly as the woman scrambled across to the opposite sidewalk and vanished into the night. Shaken, Mark pulled over and tried to steady himself. It was all identical. The rain, the intersection, the woman, even the terror that seized him, just as it had in his sleep. Later, he learned there had been a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. The woman had fled one such intruder and escaped only because someone had stopped for her. Mark could never explain how he knew to slow down at that precise moment. The dream had not only warned him, but perhaps saved a stranger's life. A warning from the subconscious, or something else, reaching across the divide between dreams and reality. The final story is perhaps the most chilling. A tale that comes from a nurse named Andrea, who worked the night shift at a hospital known for its labyrinth of sterile, echoing corridors. Andrea was used to exhaustion and odd dreams, but she began to notice a pattern. Whenever she worked back-to-back night shifts, she would dream of a particular patient, a man in his early 50s, always lying in bed, surrounded by a circle of shadowy figures. In these dreams, the figures would whisper her name until she approached the bedside. As she drew near, the man's eyes would open, and he would plead with her, "Don't let them take me," before the shadows would surge forward, and she would wake in terror. On one particularly grueling week, Andrea woke from the nightmare, only to head directly to her shift. As she checked her rounds, she was startled to find a new patient assigned to her, the same man from her dreams, pale and gaunt, his eyes filled with a strange recognition as she entered the room. That night, his condition deteriorated rapidly. Andrea stayed by his side, feeling a crushing sense of déjà vu. At one point, gasping for breath, he grabbed her hand, locking eyes with her. In a hoarse whisper, he said, "Don't let them take me." The air seemed to chill. Andrea froze, the words from her dream echoing in her mind. She did all she could, summoning the doctors, monitoring every vital sign. But ultimately, the man passed before dawn. In the days that followed, Andrea couldn't shake the feeling that her dream had been a warning or a plea from the man's soul, reaching out for help. A subtle, haunting touch between the world of the living and something beyond, channeled through a dream. These three true stories serve as chilling reminders that sometimes dreams are more than random firings of the sleeping mind. Sometimes they are warnings, connections, or glimpses into something we are not meant to fully understand. And when the boundaries blur and dreams begin to seep into waking life, the real nightmare may only just be beginning.